Welcome to Finding Joy and Confidence in Public Speaking. I'm your host, Andrea Houston, founder and CEO of Artitudes and the host of the Lead Like a Woman Show podcast. In this segment, let's think about your audience, the people whose time will be spent focused on you. Start by acknowledging this simple fact. They don't have to be there. Or if they do have to be there in a work capacity or for necessary information, the attention they dedicate to your voice is a gift. Who are the people who take in your message, contemplate it if you're lucky, give feedback if you're luckier, and if you're really fortunate, remember what you say. Before giving a presentation or speech, imagine the possible demographics represented in your listeners. Are they of a similar age? Do they share a cultural perspective, a similar interest? At the very least, you can pinpoint the last point because they're all present for your speech. They have that in common. What is that thing that drew everyone together in the moment? If you can figure out what your audience shares with each other and with you, find nuanced ways to work it into your story. Make your audience feel personally invested and represented by what you have to say. Let's say I'm a travel consultant addressing an audience of parents whose teens are about to leave for a senior field trip to Mexico. I have 250 people assembled in an auditorium. I have a lot to cover in a short time, and the details are not very interesting, even though they're very important. After all, Mexico has some rules that differ from American rules, and I want to be sure that the parents in my audience hear me and leave their phones alone. The people in my audience all have children of a certain age, so I can peg them to be in their 40s or above, facing college expenses, soon to be empty nests, and maybe some reservations about the trip their children are about to embark upon. I'm going to get the facts in, but I'm going to speak to this audience with empathy, patience, and even a little anecdotal warning scenario in which I detail the dangers of substance abuse or sunstroke. I'm going to talk about our children collectively because we all have this one thing in common, even if I don't personally have a child. When you address your audience, remember that you're telling a story with your information and you want to keep their interest focused. As you move from topic to topic, make sure to connect the messages in a way that flows logically and transitions in a relevant manner. This type of transition helps audiences remember the information because they can recall the interconnected story. I might be talking about the importance of carrying identification for safety, and rather than jump into something like accommodations, I would instead follow with how to obtain a passport, since the proximity of this subject to IDs is closer than hotel reservations. Look at the topics you need to cover in your speech. Write each one on a Post-it note and spread them out on a large empty table or on a bulletin board. Look for the relationships between your subjects and think of ways to transition from one to the next in a story-like manner. Finding connection between topics is like keeping a reader moving from chapter to chapter in a book. If you end a topic abruptly and move on to something unrelated, your audience has to abandon their thought process and refocus. The likelihood that the information will stick has just diminished. Finally, if at all possible, leave time for Q&A. Audience participation cements knowledge and aids memory. When you ask for questions, you're inspiring analysis of your content. Your thoughtful answers to your audience's questions will help them remember you as a speaker as well as your information. Thanks for joining me for Finding Joy and Confidence in Public Speaking. I'm Andrea Houston, and in the next segment, we're going to learn about the importance of creating an opening hook to introduce your information with not only relevance, but entertainment.